When you hear the word Ninja, there's only one company that you ever remember, and that's Kawasaki. Ninjas are usually known to be lean, green, fast, and sporty machines. But have you ever heard of the slightest idea that a Ninja could be fun, fast, but a comfortable bike too? And now, this is it. This is the 2018 Kawasaki Ninja 650, and I am here to review it. But before I review it, I would like to thank my friend Mar Rivera for lending me his bike to review on. And now, let's get it on. Talk about improvement. The whole bike has improved a lot in terms of features, performance, and specs from the previous generation of the ER6N. It really has gone on a diet. It lost a staggering 19 kilograms in weight from the whole new redesigned specs and features. Well, I'm gonna start with the chassis. The all-new frame in this one is a new Trellis frame, which replaces the double pipe perimeter frame of the ER6N, which lost a staggering 8.5 kilograms from the chassis alone. The all-new hollow-pressed steel swing arm saves about 2.8 kilograms from the previous generation. And the all-new redesigned wheels saves about 1.7 kilograms of weight front and rear. And the engine on this one is a 649cc liquid-cooled parallel twin with new die-cast aluminum cylinders, new cams, a slimmer intake port, a revised airbox, and lighter engine case, which makes about 68 horsepower at 8,000 RPM and 65.7 Nm of torque at 6,500 RPM. And talk about stopping power. On the front, we've got Nissin master cylinders and calipers with 300mm dual disc brakes. And on the rear, we got 220mm rear disc brakes with Nissin master calipers and master cylinders. And talk about grip. The tires on this one are Dunlop Sportmax D214s with 120/70 on the front and 160/60 on the rear. Suspension on this one, we've got 41mm telescopic forks, non-adjustable on the front. And on the rear, we got a coil spring shock with a linkage system that is only preload adjustable. And the ground clearance on this one is just about 131mm, which is not quite what we'd hoped for, but it is what it is. And one of my most favorite features of this bike is the transmission. It is a 6-speed manual with a slipper clutch. And on the front here, we've got these park lights and halogen headlights. And on the rear, we've got these LED tail lights, which resembles an X and pretty much looks very cool. Take a look. And the tank on this one is a steel one with a 15-liter capacity. The seat on this one is a very friendly 790mm, which is about 15mm lower than that of the ER6N. And I am about 5'2" in height, and this is what I look like when I ride on this bike. And as you can see, I have my right foot down, kaya po i-flat foot. Alright, and I'm gonna put my left foot down just for you to see. And that is it. So, wala problema po sa seat height para sa mga may kakulangan ng height na katulad ko. So, the dash on this one is pretty straightforward. I like it because yung tachometer niya is analog pa po and not digital. The speed readouts and the other functions on this one are the ones that are digital. And maganda po sa kanya because negative po yung fonts niya, which means white po siya and black yung backgrounds, which is very easy to read. So, on the tachometer here, we've got a 10,000 RPM red line. We got a neutral or gear indicator here, a clock, a fuel gauge, an engine temperature, average consumption of fuel. This is the speed and the odometer. So on this one, we got the check engine light, neutral, and the ABS light, which will turn off pag nag-ride na po tayo. And we've got these two buttons to worry about. So this functions trip A, trip B, and odometer. And sa baba po, we've got range, average kilometers per liter, and kumbaga yung mga average fuel consumption niya. And on its cockpit, we've got the kill switch, the starter button, brakes on the front. So maganda po yung levers niya kasi it's really adjustable sa reach po. So if you got the long fingers or short fingers, no problem po yan. We have got a high and low light beam, and these are the signal lights, the horn, pretty straightforward. And these are the hazard or the buttons for the hazard lights, which is pretty cool. And kumbaga, it really needs this. Kumbaga, consider this as big bike, so it has to have hazard lights. So on the clutch lever here, maganda po kasi it has just a very light clutch feel kasi may slipper clutch po siya. And at the same time, sa lever po natin, adjustable din po yung reach natin. So it has 5 levels of reach para sa mga tao dyan na may mahaba at saka may cling fingers. So wala problema. And here, hey, we got the side mirrors, which the visibility is very good, high. And on the right, obviously, sport bike mirrors din, visibility is pretty good. And the front, we got the windshield, which is pretty substantial. And sabi nila, you can adjust this on height via Allen key, alright? So, which I like about this area here because this is a blank spot. So, I think para ito sa car charger. If you want to install an auxiliary charger, kumbaga, you can get this plastic off and install an auxiliary car charger there. So, if you want to charge your phone or any gadgets there. So on the cockpit, we've got this clip-on handlebars, which is pretty high for sport bikes. So anyway, hindi naman to pure sport bike. This is a sport touring one. So technically, it kind of has this higher position, which ergonomically speaking, hindi po siya mangalay sa kamay natin. And kahit sport bike po siya, medyo upright pa rin yung position ko. And this is the key function on this one. So instead of the key hole being here, it's here, malapit sa ating tank. Sound check on the 2017 Kawasaki Ninja 650. Hope you can hear that, folks.
I had this bike for about 2 days and had ridden it for about 220 kilometers, which the other 160 kilometers was a trip back and forth from Rojas to Alibo and vice versa. Seeing the bike for the first time gives you an intimidating feeling about the seat height not being low enough, especially for me since I'm just 5'2" in height. But riding it was surprising. The 790mm seat height really comes in handy. Sa sobrang baba ng seat height niya, kayang-kaya siya flat foot, which is really great considering the bike weighs in at 193 kilograms. It gives you leverage sa pagtukod ng motor, lalo na when it's not moving. And another thing I've noticed about the seat is, it's so thin. The engine position is very good to the point that it frees quite an amount of space for the seat to be very slim. Pero kahit makitid siya, it doesn't mean that it's not comfortable. The seat is shaped so well that it comfortably matches the shape of my ass, rendering it quite comfortable for long rides. The ergonomics on this bike is quite surprising. Considering that it looks so sharp for a Ninja, most sport bikes make you lean forward so much that it makes your back and wrists hurt for a significant amount of riding time. But not this one. Hindi ka sabsob na sabsob. Since it's a sport touring bike, Kawasaki gave emphasis not only on aerodynamics but also comfort as well. The low seat height and the higher clip-on handlebars gives you the feeling that you're riding a naked bike, but with the aerodynamics of a sport bike, which is what you'll be really looking for if you're gonna be touring on this bike. Para siyang mix ng dalawa. It was the idea of mixing two different bike categories with different purposes that led Kawasaki to create a unique bike that would appeal to what modern consumers would usually want a bike to look like, but with the function of what you really need. Kumbaga, alam na nila na gusto mo yung sport bike look, pero alam din nila na ayaw mong sumakit yung mga likod at kamay mo. The added touring comfort on this bike is also due to its aerodynamics. The fairings and high windscreen makes you slice through the wind like there was no wind at all, even at 120 kilometers an hour. Coming from a scooter and a naked bike, you'll really notice the aerodynamics to be very effective. Cruising at the higher speeds is a breeze. You're not gonna get fatigued due to the wind on this bike anytime sooner, which means that you'll have longer riding time on the saddle, lalo na when you're touring this bike all day long. Iba talaga pag sport bike. You're really covered by the fairings. Watch the area where my hand moves. Behind the windscreen, wala talagang wind. But if you go higher up a bit, all the rushing air is there. So wind protection on this is excellent. Lalo na for me since I'm a small rider. Madaling magtago behind the fairings. The engine on this one is very good. It's a 649cc liquid-cooled parallel twin, which makes about 68 horsepower at 8,000 RPM and 65 Nm of torque at 6,500 RPM. That's what's good about these middleweight displacement bikes with lesser cylinders. You don't need to rev them that high to get that punch of power that you're looking for. This made lesser power compared to the older generation ER6F, but it compensated in additional torque, which means that it should accelerate a little bit faster. These changes were due to the strict mandated Euro 4 compliance of the motorcycle manufacturers in the world market. Hindi kasi pwedeng palagi na lang top speed yung mindset natin, di ba? The Euro 4 compliance is the motorcycle manufacturers' ways of saying that we should also care for our environment. Overtaking is a breeze. Coming from a Duke 390, you'll really feel that bump in displacement. The torque is quite punchy too, but it delivers it in such a friendly manner. So friendly in fact that you're not gonna be intimidated of. That's due to the fact that the engine configuration is a parallel twin, which means that there are two 324.5cc pistons combusting simultaneously, one after the other, giving you that linear but predictable punch of the torque across the power band. Since the engine has a lower compression ratio than most modern engines, it doesn't heat up as much. Unlike KTM's and even the Ninja 400, which has a higher compression ratio, I haven't found the engine temperature gauge to be on full bar at all times, even in traffic. And the fact that it's liquid-cooled and has a big radiator is also a determining factor in its lower heat compared to other bikes with lower displacement. Hindi siya ganoon ka-hot legs. Shifting gears is quite smooth. Madaling hanapin yung neutral. Banging on the upshifts and downshifts really feels satisfying once you correctly shifted the gears. Squeezing the clutch feels very light due to the slipper clutch as it doesn't need stronger clutch springs for it to engage properly. It feels 3 times lighter than that of my 2014 KTM Duke 390, which is an advantage in traffic and overall riding, so you won't get that much fatigue. The slipper clutch really comes into its own. Downshifting multiple gears and coming hard into a corner really feels stable, as engine braking is done in a controlled manner. Releasing the clutch lever doesn't let it engage instantly. It allows a significant amount of slip until the rotational speed of your wheels and clutch match, hence giving it the name slipper clutch, preventing wheel lock and jumps when downshifting multiple gears on aggressive riding. Swinging it around at slower speeds, you can really feel its 193kg weight. But going above 60 km an hour, it handles superb and feels like a small bike. The transition on the corners is as fast as you tell it to, thanks to the 19kg lowered weight and lesser rotational momentum from the lighter wheels. Kawasaki put the weight where it matters, and that's below. Having it redesigned from the previous generation, they've managed to lower its center of gravity by redesigning the frame, swing arm, and underbelly exhaust. And having the privilege to drive it at the Kalibo Twisties, I think that their design has proven to be worth it. For a sport touring bike with budget suspension, it's tuned well and makes the bike carve corners like it's on rails. The 41mm fork and rear shock gave me more confidence than ever, but don't get me wrong, I've also encountered bumps which the suspension soaked very well. It's plush and progressive at the same time, giving the suspension tuning of both comfort and sport in one package. Hand in hand, the suspension works well with the tires. They've got plenty of grip too. The Dunlop Sport Max provided lots of contact patch when the bike is both upright and leaned in. The 120mm in the front as well as the 160mm cross-section at the rear gives the bike a perfect cross-section ratio. Although you can also upgrade the rear to a bigger one, the 160mm proved to be enough for me. The brakes bite well too. Considering the bike weighs a hefty 193 kilograms, the 300mm dual disc brakes in the front proved to be useful in terms of stopping power. Makapit yung preno niya, pero hindi siya sobrang kapit na isang pitik mo lang would almost lock the wheels just like the brakes on high-end superbikes. Like for example, Brembos. The rotors are vented, which means that there is a significant amount of material removed in order for it to create wind drag when it's rotating, so the brakes can be cooler, preventing brake fade. Brake fade is a phenomenon when the brakes overheat, you lose stopping power. Alam niyo yung feeling na nagda-downhill kayo? Ang pagkatagal-tagal and start using the brakes more frequently, tapos hindi gumagana? That's brake fade. And the Ninja's rotors are redesigned to prevent that. And of course, the brakes have ABS too, which is about standard in most modern bikes this size and displacement. It prevents the wheels from locking up when you accidentally slam on the brakes and there's not enough traction on the ground, which is very useful in case of emergency stops. But it doesn't mean na hindi ka na mag-execute ng proper braking procedures. The ABS has its limits too. When I was doing my top speed run, I ran out of road, and the road conditions weren't safe enough in doing the high speed runs. I got about 187 kilometers an hour, and there's about 1,000 RPM left before I hit the 10,000 RPM red line. If only I had a longer and safer stretch of road, I think I could go beyond 200 kilometers an hour. But who needs top speed when it already accelerates this fast and handles this good in a corner, right? I mean, let's face it, a fast bike on a straight road alone doesn't make you a fast rider. Also remember folks, do not ever ride your bike beyond your capacity. Test the limits of your bike when you're alone.
So the gas on this, guys, is 95 octane unleaded gas. That's the recommended gas. Pero pwede naman yung Blaze, which is a higher octane. Pag sinabing natin higher octane, usually it combusts later, which technically increases the compression ratio kasi delay na yung pagkumbasa sa compression stroke. So increased compression ratio means increased power. So that's why na sabi nila maganda yung Blaze. That's how it functions. Alright.
On my 220 kilometers of riding this bike, it was a mix of chill and walwal mode. Chill mode kasi mahal na talaga yung gas ngayon, and walwal mode just to show you guys what this bike's capable of. My average fuel consumption was about 19 kilometers per liter, which is on the higher consumption side, but I wasn't surprised. If you think about it, it's a 650cc bike with two 325cc cylinders. Kumbaga, saktong-sakto lang talaga. I mean, I enjoyed my trip kahit medyo magastos. When you look at it at an economy level, thinking of having a 650cc bike in the first place already means na ready talaga yung bulsa mo, diba? I just can't imagine how liter bikes with 4 cylinders consume fuel. Pero, ibang usapan na yun eh.
Now, who's this bike for? Now, this bike has a lot of power, but it delivers it in such a friendly manner. So friendly, in fact, that beginner riders will not be intimidated of. And at the same time, pro riders will also enjoy. So what's my take on this one? Well, it looks like a sport bike, it handles like a sport bike, but it has the ergonomics and comfort of a naked bike. Now, for 395,000 pesos, you get all of those. All of those and a 649cc, fun, powerful, and reliable power plant to match with. Considering the prices of other bikes in the segment, now I think that is a really good value for money.